Hey, it's Cass in Court TV. It's your girl, Miss Public Info, here with the latest and greatest and sometimes hated updates of your most favorite high profile cases going on around the country. Now, today, there is a case going on here in Los Angeles. It was a missing persons case. It had to do with a little 5-year-old boy out in a suburb of Los Angeles called Panorama City. For those of you who are not familiar with the Los Angeles area, the little boy had been missing and well, so happens that they found a body, and they found a body in a dumpster, and it was unfortunately the little boy's body. So let's talk about this case. This is one of those cases that really disgust me, and I'm going to make reference to some other cases, and then I'm going to also make reference to the Jamal White case and why the Jamal White case angered so many people and is continuing to anger people as the case unfolds. So this case has to do with the little Elyjah Hearn, who was unfortunately uh, unalived, murdered by Brycson Gaddis. Brycson Gaddis, who is 20 years old, has been booked and arrested and booked on suspicion of Elyjah's death. Uh, Gaddis was an ex-boyfriend of Elyjah's mother. His mother is Elyjah Hearn. Gaddis was accused of actually kidnapping Kima and Elyjah last Saturday and holding them at an apartment not too far from where Elyjah's body was found yesterday. And it was his grandfather, Elyjah's grandfather, um, who actually gave a press conference here in Los Angeles, sort of confirming all that had gone on. Troy Hearn Sr., Elyjah's grandfather, who had said that, his body had been found. Yes, it was him. And he said that, he suffered massive injuries, including a fractured jaw, fractured ribs, and a lacerated liver. This was also confirmed by law enforcement. The Los Angeles Police Department said that they weren't going to disclose the specific cause of death, um, but from those injuries, we could only imagine what the cause of death was. And like I said, Brycson Gaddis, the suspect in this matter, he was accused of actually holding Elyjah and his mother, kidnapping Elyjah and his mother, and then holding them at an apartment not so far from the dumpster where Elyjah was found. So one could only guess that he may have unalived Elyjah in front of his mother. I want to make a statement right now about a lot of these cases as it relates to women um, dating men who are not the father of their children. And I see nothing wrong, obviously, with women having relationships with people who are not their children's father. But here's the thing, you have to be careful. It's one thing if you are a single woman and you are out there, and I'm not being gender biased. I'm talking about women because this is what this particular case is about. And I'm going to get on the other side in a minute. But it's one thing if you want to date, whomever you want to date, and you're just out here having a good time and you're willing to take the risk to date someone you know very little about, or someone you haven't quite done the vetting process for. But it's another ball game when you are a parent. It's another ball game, ladies, when you're a mom. And you simply cannot afford to mess up when it comes to dating someone and endangering your child's life by having someone who you hardly know or don't know that well or don't know that much about around your kid. You can have someone, you can be with someone for 25 years and not really know who they are, let alone someone you just met, a month or two ago and you guys are already living together, which I don't know if that was the case here, but that is a common trend that I've seen with my own eyes out here in these streets. You know, oh, so and so, we just met, but we clicked, and he has kids and I have kids, so we just decided to, um, it was affordable, the most affordable thing for us to do because we spent so much time together. So we just decided to, move in together. What? You don't even know him. You don't even know him. And so here we have a situation here where this was an ex and he clearly had a problem mentally. And then he goes and he says, well, I'm going to kidnap you. Oh, well, I know your kid is the most important thing to you. I know how to get you. So I'm going to go ahead and unalive him. An innocent 5-year-old baby. Now, the mother was detained briefly for questioning, but she was let go. And it's just sad to me. And I don't know really how we as a society, or when we as a society, are going to quite understand the dangers of allowing certain people in our children's lives. That includes certain family members. If you know a certain family member is known to be a predator, or they're known to be irresponsible, or they're known to be someone who is of, low moral character, then don't have them around your kid. It's very, very simple. The greatest predictor of future behavior is past behavior. So if you know someone is nuts or has acted in an oft way, or my favorite term, a maniacal way in the past, then this is someone you probably don't want to have around your kid. They're probably not safe to have around your kid. You think? I think so. And this is why I was so angered, and I am so angered by the Jamal White Jr. kidnapping, which we still don't know the full story on. Because when you have a situation where you have these parents that are involved and this kid, he's innocent, he has no idea what's going on, and all he knows is that he is being kidnapped by someone, masked gunman, his dad's running in the house, leaving him outside. And then before you know it, the next day he's with the police. He's not even with his family now. Why? Because everyone's saying, and it is true, he's safe. He's no longer in the arms of the kidnappers, but he is not with his parents. So I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a brief education on what happens on these sorts of things when children are in these kinds of situations and the parents haven't been cleared. What happens is the children end up being fostered unless they can find a family member that they know won't allow the parents to be in their midst. So it's possible that little Jamal White Jr. is not even allowed to be around his grandparents or his aunt in any sort of legal custody of someone in either side of the family right now, because the county is too afraid to put him in that custody, because they don't know if that family member will have the parents around the kid, who they are trying to keep Jamal away from, because right now the parents have not been deemed safe. Now, yesterday we found out that Siobhan Williams, his mother, was arrested on the 15th. His father was arrested that Saturday, but he was let go. Now, let me be clear about this. Jamal White Sr., someone said in my comments when I reported on the Siobhan Williams arrest, well, everybody owes Jamal White Sr., the father, an apology. No, they don't. Because what we saw on that video, we saw him run away and we saw him leave his kid out there. That's what everyone's alarmed about. But I offer this as well. Because he was arrested, and he was arrested to exclude him, and he was arrested for questioning. Because he was arrested and therefore released doesn't mean that he's innocent. It just means they didn't have enough to hold him. Okay? That's what it means. Now, I'm not saying that he did anything wrong. I have no idea because I don't know what their investigation looks like. But now that they've arrested that mother, I think there's something going on with both of those parents. I think that the police is working up an investigation. I think it is very possible that you're going to see Jamal Sr. rearrested. You're going to probably hear about that. There is something else going on. I am almost certain now that Corey Williams is probably Siobhan Williams' brother. And I'm almost certain that this is a custody battle situation of some kind. And that little Jamal is, like always, practically in these situations, he's a pawn in the situation. You know, well, he's mine. Oh, he's mine. Oh, he's mine, sort of thing. You right? Or I don't want you to see him this day. You need to see him that day. Or I want him home this time. No, he's coming. He's coming home when I say so. Oh, well, I'm going to send somebody to come get him. You know, that sort of thing. Just craziness. Just craziness. And so I'm not saying that these are the things that happen, but I'm saying that now that the mother has been arrested, I'm pretty sure the father will be rearrested because all of this sounds just too nuts. Because his brother, his twin brother, Jamel, hasn't been released. We've not heard that he's been released. Maybe he has been. You know, they could be being quiet on that. But if the mother's been arrested and the brother is still in custody, and we know Corey is still in custody, then I'm going to say that the father is going to be rearrested at some point. They just let him go that Saturday because at that point, they didn't have enough to hold him. Corey Williams being arrested and being held because of a probation violation, which is how they get a lot of people to talk, sort of allowed him to give more information about the story, about what really happened, about what was really going on, which led to the arrest of Siobhan, which will likely lead to the rearrest of Jamal Sr. And to sort of circle back to this case here in Los Angeles, I'm referencing the White case, the Jamal White case, because this so easily could have been that situation. The reason the city of Milwaukee and the community rallied around finding Jamal White Jr. was because they didn't want what happened to Elyjah Hearn to happen to Jamal White Jr. They didn't want to find Jamal in a dumpster, dislocated, severely battered, bones fractured and broken, like they did here in Los Angeles with Elyjah Hearn. And since this case with Jamal White Sr. is shaping up to be an internal kidnapping hoax led by the family, whether it's the father's family or the mother's family, I want to implore, kidnapping, especially as it relates to a child, is nothing to play with. If you are upset about a child custody case, or you want to get back at someone, revenge, or whatever it is, you need to find another way to do it. You do not harm innocent children or utilize innocent children to make a point or to get back at someone. Because this is exactly what happened with poor little Elyjah Hearn, who is now deceased at 5 years old. Because a crazy ex-boyfriend of his mother's wanted to get back at her through her son. And it's no different than one of these crazy parents of Jamal White Jr. utilizing him as a pawn to get back at the other one. This is not okay. Not okay. So we're gonna keep you all updated on this now Brycson Gaddis case. Brycon Gaddis is the suspect that is being held on murder charges for little 5-year-old Elyjah Hearn from here in Los Angeles. And it goes on to say, the police go on to say that Kimia, and who is Elijah's mother, Kimia and Gaddis dated on and off for a few years, and Gaddis was allegedly stalking her, according to her father and Elijah's grandfather. He says, it's very heartbreaking for him to do that to my 5-year-old grandson. I'm identifying, he says, I'm identifying his body this afternoon. I'm overwhelmed and so angry that I can't even explain it. This guy is a bad guy, and it's lucky that the police has him. Over the past 12 months, Gaddis has been charged with a plethora of crimes, including carjacking, assault, and DV. And there was an active bench warrant for his arrest at the time of the boy's death. This is according to court records. In July 2024, just last year, this time last year, he was one of 3 defendants charged with carjacking and assault stemming from an incident here in Southern California. But charges against all 3 were dropped in December after a prosecutor announced he was not ready to proceed on the day of Gaddis's preliminary hearing, according to court records. As a result, Gaddis was released from jail on December 16th. And of course, the LA County District Attorney's Office did not return a request to comment. Now, how could that happen? Well, I don't really know why that happened, but obviously they may have, actually I do know how that happened. Speedy. So, every person in the United States, when they go on trial, when they are held on a crime, they have a right to a speedy trial. And the district attorney's office has a certain amount of time to get prepared for speedy, get prepared for the trial within I believe it's a 60-day window that they have, 60 to 90-day window that they have to get ready. So he committed these crimes in July, and December 16th was actually the preliminary hearing, and he still wasn't ready. So they could not proceed, and so he was released. Because of the overcrowdings in jail. That's number 1. And number 2, he probably did not waive speedy. And it's so the DA's office was not prepared to move forward, and that's a big shame. I mean, they need to get more DAs, more deputies up in there, if that's the issue. But that's just crazy. But that it sounds like that DA was overloaded with cases, but quite possibly, and just wasn't ready to proceed with the case, and so they had to let him go. It doesn't mean that the case was dismissed, but it just means that he was released, probably from an overcrowding situation or whatever, in Men's Central, because he was being held in Men's Central in downtown, most likely. And so it says 2 months after being released from jail, he was arrested by LAPD in February and charged with multiple counts of domestic violence and false imprisonment after he repeatedly punched his girlfriend and then locked her in their apartment against her will on 2 different occasions, according to a criminal complaint. A trial date was set for April, but Gaddis did not appear in court, leading a judge to issue a bench warrant. Gaddis was subject to electronic monitoring after the charges were filed, but several alerts were sent to the LA County Probation Department in May that the device's battery was dead, and Gaddis was ignoring calls from the monitoring company. And all this from a probation spokeswoman on Wednesday. And then on Saturday, officers followed a tip to an apartment complex in Landmark Street, less than a mile from where Elyjah's body was found, police said. And officials executed a search warrant at around 9:30 p.m. at one of the apartments and detained Gaddis and Kimia. Two children were also found in the apartment. So in total, 5 people were detained for questioning on Monday. The LA County Department of Children and Family Services took 2 of those children. So they took the 2 children. And of course, there's a lot of vigils for little Elyjah around the area where his body was found. It's sad for the community. There's folks in the community, who don't even know him, who are just crying about the situation, and just saying how sad it was because, it's just a child. It's just a child. For everything that we have going on right now, particularly here in Los Angeles with the huge immigration sweeps that we have going on, to have to deal with something like this, a death of a child, so violent and so aggressive and so unnecessary. It's just one more thing, right? Just one more thing. All right, guys. Well, that's it for this. We're going to keep you on game on everything else. Actually, while I have you, let me take a look and see if there's anything else on the Jamal White case. I do not think that there's anything else since I'm talking about it. I do not think that there's anything else. There has been anything else. Let's see. Except for more, more of, news clips of the video where Jamal White Sr. is running in the house, and the New York Post has him quoted as saying, "Hell yeah, I ran." That's so embarrassing. And also, Jamal White Jr. is gonna read this one day, and he's already knows it happens, and I'm pretty sure he's like, really, in his own head, like he's never going to be able to sort of live that down. It's just crazy. Okay, so it says that the uncle, I do have a little bit of news. Okay, so Jamal White's uncle was charged with firing shots at a car. So I'm guessing that may have been why he was arrested. The uncle of Milwaukee boy taken from his home, sparking a statewide Amber Alert, was in court on Tuesday. So he had a court date on Tuesday. Prosecutors say that Jamel White fired several shots at a car driving slowly near the family home at 61st and Hustis Streets the day after 7-year-old Jamal White was abducted. So that's Saturday. Police found the boy safe later Saturday. And then, according to the criminal complaint, White told investigators he shot at the car because he was scared for his family, and he hid the gun behind the house in a wooded area. A father and son in the car were not hit. They claimed they were trying to help in the search for the missing boy. Now, this sort of speaks to, I think, the aunt who wrote a Facebook message up talking about this. And at the time, it was a little bit nonsensical because I don't think anyone knew what she was referring to. But she said something about, then we have random people driving up and down the street. We don't know who they are, and they're looking in our driveway. We just lost somebody, and we're not going to lose someone else. And so I guess that's what she was referring to, this boy here. So the prosecutor says in open court, "You were allegedly shooting at a car that was occupied by 2 people and did not hit the car at all. So even if you were defending yourself," oh, I'm sorry, this is not the prosecutor that's speaking. This is the county court commissioner. And let me be clear. So in certain cities and certain counties, commissioners are also judges. They're not necessarily judges per se, but they are magistrates who are not necessarily criminal court judges. But when someone comes in for initial charges, they will hear the case before it gets bounded over to the district court, which is the higher criminal court. So that's what this person is. This Commissioner Barry Phillips, who's speaking to Jamel White, he is for a lack of a better term, a magistrate who is hearing this case because this is the first hearing that Jamel is having. But if and when the case gets bound over to the district court level, to the criminal court level, it'll be a different judge. It'll be a regular criminal court judge. So that's just a little information, education there. But Commissioner Phillips says to Jamel White, "You were allegedly shooting at a car that was occupied by two people and did not hit the car at all. So even if you were defending yourself, you didn't even make contact with the people you were supposed to be defending yourself from." Very true. Very true indeed. White is charged with 2 counts of recklessly endangering safety and use of a dangerous weapon. Okay, so now we know where the second degree recklessly endangering safety charge is coming from. We heard about that charge, so we know that belongs to him. And then of course the use of a dangerous weapon. So then the resisting arrest charge and the obstruction of justice charge, and the bond violation could be long to Mr. Williams, but also the obstruction of justice charge, and they said it was preliminary at the time, and the resisting arrest charge could have at the time, since he was let go, belong to Jamal White Sr. Because at the time, those were the list of charges, of pending tentative charges at the time. So those obstruction of justice and the resisting arrest charges could have fallen off when they decided they didn't have enough to hold Jamal, or when they decided that he wasn't involved. I'm gonna go with he is involved, and I'm gonna go with they just didn't have enough to hold him at the time. But I think that Jamal is gonna get rearrested. My gut is telling me this. I'm not trying to be right about anything, but I was right on the money as it related to him being arrested the first time, and I was on the money about the mother being arrested as well, because I knew that was going to happen. So I kind of think he's going to get rearrested, because there's something very fishy going on here. And we just have to see how it unfolds. Now we know that the uncle wasn't directly involved in the kidnapping, but more so he was arrested because of his reaction to some of the activity going on, where people were looking for Jamal, and he's probably spooked because of